MC and Eugene helped create the conditions for many people to prosper in the process. Those were the good old days. It did not take me long to realize that I was where I belonged. And it was in our hinterland that I developed a deep sense of love and lasting patriotism for my country. I also remember the sadness I felt for a country which had been left behind in its development. It was then that I began to understand the never-ending dull pain felt by thousands of Guyanese who remain still dislocated in many other countries of the world, but who long to come back home to live happy lives within their culture and to contribute to the development of their homeland. I pledged myself then to work to restore the honor of my family, who, like many other Guyanese families, had been divided by our politics over the last 50 years. And I determined then to serve my country in the best way I could and to focus my energies on making a difference. I tell this short but not unfamiliar story to explain that the real motivation of not only myself but my fellow investors behind the development of Ogle International Airport was never fully driven by profit. Rather, we were more driven by a desire to make a crucial contribution to our national infrastructure and to leave behind a legacy from which all of us and all Guyanese can benefit and be proud of. There are many people behind this project. The idea and vision of an expanded Ogle goes back at least 30 years over several political administrations. The critical political decision, however, to place this fundamental aspect of the country's air transportation reform program in the hands of the private sector was taken by the late President Janet Jagan's administration. And the President was reminding me that President Jagan was actually a PPL. She was a pilot. Guyana Airways Corporation, after costing the Treasury billions of dollars in losses, was sold in 1999 to Aviation Investments, Inc., chaired by Yesu Prasad, and the privately owned GA2000 was born. Sadly, this failed, like many other airlines, due mainly, in our opinion, to the predatory pricing practices of the major Caribbean carrier and the absence of a common regulatory framework in the Caribbean, which is something the Aircraft Owners Association have been calling for. The main concern facing the Janet Jagan administration, however, was the difficult challenge of providing safe and sustainable domestic air services to meet a growing hinterland demand at a reasonable cost. the challenge was effectively met by the member companies of the Aircraft Owners Association of Guyana. As I used to remind President Jagyo all the time. When Ogle Airport was faced with closure for failure to meet ICAO requirements, the AOAG members again rose to the occasion and accepted the challenge of managing and developing Ogle Airport. These investors, most of you know them, are sitting today here on my right, and I ask you to recognize these gentlemen. And I'm reminded by the President Nicole and one lady, Nicole Correa, my sister. Thank you for that, Mr. President. These major political decisions to privatize our domestic airline industry, made by President Janet Jagan and supported by her then Minister of Transport, Anthony Chavir, were transformational for the air transport sector in Guyana. The evidence of the enormous and progressive changes you see around you at present result from those visionary decisions taken at that time. We are honored, therefore, to take this opportunity to specially recognize these two former politicians who never for once doubted the sincerity, the determination, and the will to succeed of these patriotic Guyanese investors. Mr. President, like many other projects of this kind, Ogle Airport also had its many naysayers. People who were always negative, and even some who tried to derail the investment. It's an unfortunate element of our culture which still persists today. OAI was also fortunate to have, at that time, two other visionary international public servants who came forward to provide critical financial and political support when it was most needed. I must tell you that Guyana forever owes a debt of gratitude to the former European Union Ambassador, Pierre Eklund, and our former esteemed Secretary General, Sir Edwin Carrington, for the sterling role they both played in the support of building this CARICOM regional airport. Thank you. Theirs is a perfect example of how many non-nationals come to our shores and fall in love with our people and our country, and provide us constantly with essential encouragement and support. We are honored also, therefore, to recognize the invaluable contribution they have made to the development of this airport. All international airport projects are generally very expensive and are highly technical, and this fact presented many challenges to OAI. We have nevertheless overcome every hurdle encountered, one by one, primarily of the determination, dedication, and exceptional experience and ability of our management team. It's my special pleasure on this occasion to acknowledge Colonel Anthony McDeasy, former GAC captain, former director of civil aviation, and the CEO of Ogle Airport from its inception. And together with him, Captain Malcolm Chamasu, a former chief pilot of Guyana Airways, and now Safety and Compliance Manager of the airport and CEO of the Art Williams and Harry Wendt Aeronautical Engineering School, and also a founding member and executive director of the Aircraft Owners Association of Guyana. These two patriots continue to give invaluable and unstinting service in support of their country. Undoubtedly, they are living legends of 100 years of rich Guyanese aviation history, and Mr. President, we are fortunate to have them. The privatization of Ogle Airport was unique for Guyana, in that it came, as Mr. Webster mentioned earlier, in the form of a public-private partnership. The first of its kind, really, I think, in the country. And we in the private sector are happy to have played our part in demonstrating how effective this strategy can be as we struggle for resources, Mr. President, to develop our country. I can tell you the cost-benefit gain to Guyana has been huge. Ogle International Airport has cost the Guyanese taxpayers absolutely nothing to build. There's no debt for the government to repay on this project. Ogle Airport Inc. has no corporation tax relief, no property tax relief. OAI pays a lease and shares the passenger throughput revenue with the government. We have estimated that the government of Guyana, and therefore the people of Guyana, will, as a result, benefit from over 50% of the future profits of OAI. OAI has managed to use only about $6 million US of investment capital to develop this airport to this point, Mr. President. Because I believe it has been managed by an experienced, capable, and careful private sector team. The airport is fully compliant with international standards and is already recognized, as Mr. McGeesey reminds me, as one of the best small regional airports in the Caribbean. Ogle International Airport has trebled its primarily domestic business under private management over the last 10 years. Presently, the airport delivers over 100 aircraft movements every single day. Of the National Competitiveness Strategy on the table for discussion and to support the government in this process. As a private citizen of Guyana, I believe I can speak for most Guyanese when I say that while we are happy with the economic progress over the last 6 years, and we now hear growth expected this year of over 5%, Mr. President, it's very good. And we congratulate you, Mr. President, and our government for this. We also recognize there is need for a comprehensive long-term infrastructural development plan to supplement this growth. National development and expansion and economic growth inevitably creates its own chaos. Our traffic jams will get worse. Why? People buy more cars, particularly on the East Bank Road and in our city. The challenge of waste disposal and pollution as we grow can continue to overwhelm us and could possibly cause sickness. Our drains can continue to overflow and flood us out. Climate change can bring in the sea. All of these things can happen unless we plan out our infrastructure development carefully and strategically. Mr. President, while we celebrate 100 years of rich aviation history of Guyana today, tomorrow beckons and we all have limited time. The National Competitiveness Strategy provides the opportunity for everyone to get involved with nation building. I think Minister Ben was calling for this earlier. It is not selfish. It's not opportunistic. It is not politically motivated. It provides for inclusivity of all of our citizens in matters that affect them. It helps our government. It helps our country. I therefore urge you and all our members of Parliament to give this matter serious future consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. As you can see, Michael Correa's vision is not confined to Ogle Airport. It is confined to Guyana and its future. Mr. President, we're very honored that you've taken the time to be here with us on this occasion. We are very conscious of the fact that the government has just presented its national budget. We know the time and the attention that demands of you. But nevertheless, you've chosen to come and share this celebration with us. Thank you for coming, and thank you for delivering the feature address, Mr. President.
It really coincided with the centenary of aviation in Guyana. And it has given us a possibility of looking back at how far we have come in historically a very short period of time. The fact that we have had people flying here about 4 or 5 years after the first international, the Wright brothers took to the sky, is also significant, and I think it makes us one of the earliest countries in South America to have had the development, this type of development here. And of course, this was a major revolution in the transportation sector, a major revolution that has impacted on society and every aspect of society, and has created more and more, give more strong meaning to the term that we constantly hear about globalization. Globalization has to do fundamentally with the development in transport and in communications. And this has brought us together closer, not only as a region, but internationally it has brought the world much closer, and we feel the integrity of our planet much more with these type of developments that we have here. It is also important for another reason that has been mentioned here by almost all the speakers who preceded me, and that it is a good example of public-private partnership in development of our infrastructure. As all of us in public life will know, that infrastructure development is extremely expensive. And the need to mobilize and garner resources so that we can accelerate development of our infrastructure is vitally important. And we have had, apart from this very successful public-private partnership here, we also have the other example of the Berbice Bridge, which was also another very successful example of that type of relationship. And it is indeed a model that we will have to use in other very big and important infrastructural work that we will need. And we have, for instance, everyone knows that there's a crying need for another crossing across the Demerara River. And we have got to think about ways and means of getting that done as early as we possibly can. But aviation for us has additional importance. It's very important, of course, to transport people to different places. But for us, because of the very nature of our country, the geography of our country, the terrain that we have to deal with, aviation is extremely important to our general national development that we have. Our interior locations, we still have many places that are inaccessible other than by air transport. And we still have a lot of development areas to open up that aviation has helped us to open, and it's helping us to expand at this point in time. It has another, of course, it was mentioned the importance of aviation in our country to mining. And also it is very important to agriculture. Just recall that this very area that we are standing on now was because of agriculture and Gaisuko deciding to use aeroplane crop dusters to supply fertilizer and insecticides to its crops. And we, in our country, have to expand our agriculture and have to diversify as well. We know, and we have been told over and over and listened to the news, that one of the most important global problems that we face is that of food supply. And even now, as those of us with interest in international affairs look at what is happening in the Middle East, we recall that it started in Tunisia over the rise in the price of food. And Guyana has a contribution to make to the international community and to the region in helping to secure food supply. Because we are blessed with land and we are blessed with fresh water, two very important ingredients for agricultural development. But we need to do it in a modern way. We need to do it in a scientific way. And we need to have both small scale, medium scale agriculture, but we need to also have big scale agriculture, have it on a big scale, and we need to diversify our crops. We need to introduce new crops. And here again, aviation can help us. Many of you will probably already know that there is an investment of rice in the Rupununi savannas at Santa Fe. And my last visit to Lethem, I met with a businessman who told me that he was having a contract with Santa Fe to come and spray fertilizer and whatever else he has to do into the rice fields. But he's from Brazil to fly over into Guyana, and Robeson was stopping him. So I asked Robeson to help facilitate. To facilitate in this regard so that we can have that kind of service and encourage more of that investment in our country. And more too, we know that the taste, because of the diaspora, the West Indian diaspora in North America, Canada, United States, even Europe, almost everywhere you go you find Guyanese. I heard a joke, well, maybe it's not a joke, a true story. Someone said that he went to Iceland and he thought, well, look, I'm away, nobody knows me here, I'm away from everything. And as he jumped in the taxi, the taxi driver said, "What's happening, bro?" The Guyanese taxi driver he met there. So that also gives us another opportunity, because the food, the taste that they want, and cargo, air transport cargo is extremely important to get fresh vegetables and other foodstuff into the North American market as fast as possible and to have it as fresh as possible that we can get. And we also have great possibilities here now being developed at the beginning of aquaculture, supplying of fish. And those of you who, like me, got a slight pouch will want to eat healthy. And that is the big thing too in North America as well. And we can take advantage of those things there. So we have a host of benefits from the development of aviation. And while we're having this ceremony here, last Saturday we had at the Chedijagan International the Tornado of the Facade for a new airport. And that is very important for us too, because where we are located geographically, it puts us and gives us a possibility that we can be a real hub for the northern and southern hemisphere of our world. While I was there last Saturday, I recall for the audience there that in 1993, I made my first visit to South Africa. And apartheid was not officially over as yet, but it was practically over, barring the shouting. The next year, it was over. And when I was leaving, the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, Clement Rohi, asked me to raise with the ANC, because, you know, we had long relationship. I was invited there as then the Executive Secretary of the PPP to attend the first conference of the ANC inside South Africa. And Clement asked me to find out from the ANC what will be their views, to consult with them that we were being asked by the South African Airlines to in transit here on their trip up to North America. And they told me they had agreed. Of course, they agreed generally. But when I came back and reported to Rohi, that was not possible because of the length of our airstrip. And that project that would have been making travel to Africa easy, less tiresome, because to get there now we have to fly up and fly back down. That project went through the window. And we hope that with the expansion of the Chedijagan International, that we can attract flights from Africa, from Asia, and make traveling much, much easier for the Caribbean public and as a whole. So this, I think, will have an additional benefit to the tourism industry that we're trying to build, because it's going to broaden our markets tremendously if we can get those type of flights coming here to Guyana. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, let me see how happy I am to be here. And I wish I would have been around to see what the airline industry would be like in another 100 years. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And now, we will do what fundamentally we came here for.